All right, so this will be the last of the videos for this week, and human thermoregulation, and other animals do this too, but this is just showing humans. And what I want you to know from this is actually our thermostat, kind of similar to the thermostat in your house that you can set for hot and cold, is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is in your brain, and that's the part that actually decides what's happening when your body increases or decreases. So again, if you have heat stroke, that basically is your body just shuts down, and although you should be doing things like sweating and bringing your body temperature back down, blood vessels dilating, it stops, and that can be dangerous and actually fatal. So I want you to just, not worry so much about everything going on here. Obviously, you probably should know, some of the mechanisms we just talked about, but I want you to know that the hypothalamus is regulating that. Okay, so the next idea is some longer term stuff. One is to acclimate and get used to. So here are some people climbing up to the top of the Himalayas, and there are base camps that they have you actually stay at for periods of time to get your body to adjust. And we do this for temperature. If you live in California, I'm always amazed. I always laugh because, people say, oh, it's so cold outside. It's, down in the 50s. I'm like, no. Because if you live in Chicago, the 50s is balmy. So it's really what you're used to. Now, if you move to those places, you can get used to it after being there for a while. Your body adjusts. Yeah. So, cold in Chicago is, below zero, with a wind chill factor. And so there are ways of dealing with this. There are stress-induced proteins that change. There are heat shock proteins that stop from denaturing, so they can work at higher temperatures than maybe the protein should. There's also proteins that act as antifreeze. They actually let some fish and stuff get below freezing, kind of the same reason you put antifreeze in your car. So the water doesn't freeze, so it doesn't bind up the engine. And then we talked about lipids, more saturated versus unsaturated fats in your membranes. Body takes some time to do that. With dogs and mammals and even birds, it gets too hot, you molt. You get rid of some of your feathers, you get rid of some of your fur, you have a thinner coat. And then during the winter, you will thicken. And again, that's a control. So all of these are to acclimate, to get used to whatever's happening at that period of time. All right, the longer term one I want to talk about is torpor and hibernation and estivation. And these terms are, they're rough. Let me start with torpor. Torpor is basically when you kind of slow your metabolism down. And hibernation and estivation are probably long-term types of torpor. That's probably the best way of thinking of it. There is a day-to-day torpor that organisms can go through, and some people have even argued sleep is a type of torpor. I'm not sure that's true. But anyway, your metabolism does slow down a bit when you sleep. Okay, so what I want you to know, torpor can be a day-to-day stuff. You'll see that in hummingbirds. Hummingbirds have a really high body temperature, and it takes a lot of food to burn through to support that. And so what happens is, especially in the wintertime, hummingbirds will go through this night torpor where they will just kind of shut down, lower their temperature. Roadrunners will do this. And so what happens in the morning, they actually have to heat themselves up, and they use behavioral strategies and sit in the sun to kind of warm their body temperature back up. Happened in the sanctuary years ago. I was giving a tour for a bunch of Bio 1 students. And we were in there, and I was talking about something. I don't know what I was talking about, but there was turned out a hummingbird sitting right behind me, and it was shaking. You could just see it shaking, and everybody's, oh, it's scared. And probably was scared, but it was shaking because it was shivering, trying to raise its body temperature. It couldn't fly. So I was standing there and I reached out and I actually touched his beak, and it's still shivering. And it took a minute or so, and it finally got his body temperature enough so it could fly off. And bats do the same thing. Bats will go through a daytime torpor. They'll be in a cave during the day, and they'll go through this torpor. The problem is with cave exploring now, we have people going in, and if you rouse the bats out, they just fly out, and you think, oh, it's no big deal. Well, the problem is they're pulling themselves, they're using energy to pull themselves out of this torpor, and you do that too often, it can actually kill them. They don't have any body fat on. All right, the other two words on here, hibernation is the one that everybody knows, and that is long-term torpor during the winter months. It allows to save energy. They don't need to feed. They do get up. I just want to let you know, we think of hibernation is, oh yeah, they're down and they're down for good. That's not the case. They will arouse themselves every once in a while. The same way, the reason you get up at night, if you do, is to go to the bathroom. Toxins build up and they need to remove those. Estivation, term you might not have heard. And estivation is actually a long-term torpor during the summer months. And this is typically in regards to high heat, lack of food, and probably the most important, lack of water. So these animals may shut down during the summer months because there's not enough water and food to go around, and they burrow down below the ground to stay cooler. And then when rain comes, they will come out of the torpor. And here's an example of this is actually a squirrel. And you can see all the arousal rates. It arouses itself every couple of weeks. And again, that is due pretty much because it needs to go to the bathroom. But also, as they arouse themselves, they will look around a little bit, see what the supplies look like. Kind of look around. Oh, still cold outside. No food. Boom, back down again. So I want to make sure you realize it's not just one big, huge sleep that they don't move. All right, and with that, we'll call it. Stop the share.